Hey there, today I want to talk to you a little bit about low back pain and why it's so difficult for people to get it fixed. So low back pain is actually one of the most common issues that chiropractors see people for. Over 80% of people experience low back pain at some point in their life, and it's actually the #1 cause for disability or worker comp claims, okay? So my focus in my practice is very different than that. I'm more wellness oriented, and I take a corrective care approach. So I oftentimes am working with people who've been struggling with conditions, things like low back pain for many, many years. They've tried many different approaches and they're not really finding the solutions that they're looking for. The reason I'm able to help them where other people maybe not have been able to, even other chiropractors, is simply because I look at the spine a little bit differently than other chiropractors. As a corrective care chiropractor, I analyze the whole spine and really assess how it's all fitting together. And so what I mean by that is really your low back pain might be caused by a problem somewhere else further up in the spine, okay? So I find that there's two types of issues with low back pain. There's a foundational problem where you actually have a misalignment in your low back. Typically it means that your sacrum and your pelvis are twisted off to the side in one direction or other, or tilted to the side in one direction or other, and that can be a problem, right? And we can verify that with an x-ray and it'll show us if things are twisted or misaligned in a certain direction, okay? But honestly, more commonly, it's actually about 9 out of 10 of my low back pain cases that I have great results with. The reality is they have no problems in their low back. They have pain in their low back, but there are no actual structural issues in the low back. So let me explain a little bit why that is, okay? Because it's very, very common, and unfortunately that's why I find that a lot of people are not getting the results that they're looking for, is they're chasing the pain, right? They're looking at where is the pain, not where is the actual problem coming from, okay? So I wanna show you this poster that we often refer to in the office here. We call it Tex neck syndrome. It's also known as forward head posture, but essentially your head weighs the weight of a bowling ball, and it should be lined up right over your shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. It means it's right over your center of gravity. So if you held this bowling ball really close to your chest, you'd be able to hold it for quite a long time. But what happens is when we hold the bowling ball further and further out here, for every inch that the 10 pounds goes out, it makes it feel about 10 pounds heavier. So all of a sudden I'm 2-3 inches out here and my head feels like it's 20 or 30 pounds. And the problem is it's not the head or neck that often feels that stress or strain, it's further back. And so right now I'm not feeling the pain in my hands, I'm feeling it in my shoulders, and maybe my mid back, even my low back and core are starting to have to work right now because I've been holding this out here for so long, right? And so the reality is what we find is that most people sit at desks all day, they work at a computer, they have cell phones, right? We're spending a lot of time with our heads down, and then inevitably the low back starts to get really stiff and really achy, okay? So if that's the case, that might be one of the problems that you have going on. The second issue that I find often happens is people have a misalignment at the very top of their spine. Essentially their head doesn't sit quite straight over their neck and therefore their pelvis, okay? So if you have a misalignment that has pushed your head and neck off to the side here, you're not standing quite straight. Your hips and your shoulders are shifted off to the side. So this chart shows right here, when your head tilts off, how it affects the hips and can create things like low back pain, hip pain, even things like knee pain, okay? So those are things I'm able to help people with, and what's awesome about it is it's with a very gentle and very specific adjustment to the top bone in the spine, your atlas bone. So essentially what we're doing is we're straightening your head and your lower neck and getting them in alignment with each other. And what we find is you get that straightened out and everything else will straighten itself out as well, okay? So I always use an analogy for that. I say, you know, if you've got a leak in the attic, which is causing a flood in the basement, do you keep pumping the water in the basement and letting it flood over and over again? Or are you gonna go patch that leak in the roof and then clear out the basement? Pretty obvious, right? So you guys, that's what I do is I patch holes in the attic, right? Not always in the attic, but I find where they're at. We look at your body very differently than other chiropractors. We're not just gonna adjust where the pain's at, we're gonna adjust where the problem is at, and we're gonna be able to verify that with a very detailed x-ray analysis, and then follow it up with very gentle and very specific adjustments. So hopefully that helps.